I wake up every morning at 5 o'clock without an alarm clock. A habit developed over decades of working at the post office has stayed with me even in retirement. My joints ache when I get out of bed, but I don't allow myself to lie there. The day has to start early, especially when no one needs you anymore. You have to at least be useful. My apartment is small but clean. After my divorce from Elliot, I couldn't afford to stay in our house. The money he agreed to give me quickly disappeared. I helped Meredith with the down payment on her house and Gareth's college tuition. Now I live in a one-room apartment on the outskirts of Millbridge, in an old house that's drafty and cold. In winter, it's so cold that I have to sleep in wool socks and 2 sweaters. But I never complain to the kids. They already think I'm a burden. Today is Tuesday, which means I have to get dinner ready for Meredith's family. My daughter works late, and I try to help out as much as I can. Her husband Chris is a decent man, but he can't cook to save his life. Reheating pizza is the extent of his culinary abilities. Meredith says I do it because I'm bored and lonely. She may be right, but I really want to be helpful. I take the groceries I bought earlier out of the refrigerator. Today, I'm making chicken pot pie, Wesley's favorite. My youngest grandson is the only one who sometimes looks at me with interest rather than annoyance. Brianna, on the other hand, Brianna has despised me for a long time. To her, I'm a dinosaur from another era who doesn't understand modern life. I mix the dough, chop the chicken, onions, and carrots. My hands work automatically. In 44 years of marriage, I've probably cooked thousands of dinners. Elliot used to praise my cooking. In recent years, less and less. And then he just left without really explaining anything. "We've grown apart, Evie," he said, as if we were some kind of plants, not people who had lived together for almost half a century. I put the finished pie in a container and wrap it in a towel so it won't get cold. On the bus, I hold it on my lap like a child. The woman across from me, about my age, looks at me with understanding. We, the invisible people of the 1970s, recognize each other by the look in our eyes. Meredith's house is 2 stories high with a neat lawn and a basketball hoop above the garage. Her daughter's car isn't in the driveway yet, but I know Brianna must be home. Tuesday is her chemistry class day, which ends at 3. I ring the doorbell. I wait. I ring again. Finally, the door opens. "Oh, it's you," Brianna says without looking at me. Her eyes are glued to her phone, her thumbs sliding quickly across the screen. "Mom said you'd be here." "Hello, sweetie," I say, holding out the pie. "Chicken, just the way you like it." "I've been a vegetarian for 2 weeks, Grandma. I told you last time." No, she didn't. I would have remembered. I always remember what's important to my children and grandchildren. "I'm sorry, sweetie. I forgot. Next time, I'll make something without meat." Brianna rolls her eyes but takes the container and heads to the kitchen. I follow her, taking off my coat. "Is Wesley home?" I ask. "In his room playing computer games as usual," she says, putting the pie on the table and returning to her phone. I climb the stairs. Wesley's door is ajar. He's sitting with headphones on, his fingers moving quickly across the keyboard. There's some kind of game on the screen. Bright flashes, strange creatures. I knock on the doorframe. Wesley doesn't respond. I knock louder. He finally notices me and takes off his headphones. "Hi, Grandma." He smiles, and in his smile I see myself when I was young, the same dimples on his cheeks. "Hi, dear, I brought your favorite pie." "Cool." He gets up and hugs me. I smell teenage sweat and some kind of strong cologne. "Can I finish this level and come down?" "Of course, sweetie. I'll make some tea." In the kitchen, I turn on the kettle and get out the cups. Brianna has already disappeared, probably gone to her room. I know this house like the back of my hand. I help Meredith choose the furniture, curtains, and dishes. I gave her my grandmother's tea set, which I had kept for special occasions. Meredith uses it every day. She says life is too short to save beautiful things for the future. I wipe the countertop and wash a few plates left in the sink. I look in the fridge. It's almost empty. I'll have to go to the store tomorrow to buy some groceries. My pension isn't much, but I always set some aside for the children. Meredith never asks directly, but I can see how hard it is for her. A logistics manager's salary isn't as high as it seems, and Chris is often out of work. There are downturns in construction. The sound of the front door opening. Meredith is home from work. I hear her drop her keys in the vase by the door and sigh wearily. "Mom?" She walks into the kitchen. "You're already here." No hello, no how are you, just a statement of fact. "Hi, sweetie," I smile, trying not to notice the irritation in her voice. "Hard day?" "Same as usual," she says, opening the refrigerator and grabbing a bottle of water. "A new client is demanding the impossible. My boss is breathing down my neck, and my coworkers are sabotaging me. Nothing new." "I made chicken pot pie," I say, although Brianna said she's a vegetarian now. Meredith snorts. "That's her latest fad. Last week she wanted to be a raw foodist. Before that she was on a keto diet. Don't worry about it. She'll be eating burgers again by next weekend." I nod, although it hurts me that Brianna didn't think to tell me about her decision. I cook for her every week. Was it really that hard to let me know? The door opens again. Chris is home. He's tall, broad-shouldered, with a reddish beard. He works as a foreman on construction sites when there are projects. "Hi, Evelyn," he says, giving me a friendly hug. "Treating us to your cooking again?" "Just chicken pie, nothing special," I reply, but I'm pleased by his attention. "Meredith can't cook like that," he winks. "That's because I don't have time to stand at the stove all day," my daughter snaps. "Some of us have to work." Her words sting, but I'm used to them. To Meredith, my job at the post office was never a real job. "Anyone can move envelopes from one pile to another," she said once. For 35 years, I sorted letters, parcels, and packages. I knew every zip code in the state. I saw how life changed through envelopes, from handwritten addresses to printed labels. But to Meredith, none of that counts. At dinner, Wesley eats his pie with gusto, and Chris praises it too. Brianna comes downstairs, but only picks at her salad and quickly goes back to her room. Meredith eats silently, lost in her thoughts. "How's Garrett doing?" I ask, hoping to lighten the mood. "No idea," Meredith shrugs. "He's your favorite, doesn't he call you?" Gareth rarely calls. The last time we spoke was 3 weeks ago, and the conversation lasted no more than 5 minutes. Since he married Jen, our communication has been minimal. Jen believes that I have a negative influence on their children with my outdated views. "We haven't talked in a while," I admit. "He's all about his windmills these days," Chris says. "I saw him at the supermarket last week, talking about some new blade maintenance technology. To be honest, I didn't understand half of it." Meredith finishes her wine and pours herself another glass. "It's his mother's fault he's so obsessed," she says with a smirk. "She always encouraged him to tinker with technology instead of making him do something useful." "Gareth loves his job," I defend him, "and he makes good money." "Yeah, right," Meredith rolls her eyes. "That's why he lives in a trailer and drives a 20-year-old clunker." "Not everyone measures success in terms of money," I say quietly. "Oh, here we go," Meredith turns to Chris. Now she's going to lecture us about how, in her day, people appreciated the simple pleasures and didn't chase after material things. Chris looks uncomfortable. He doesn't like conflict. "The pie is really good, Evelyn," he says, trying to change the subject. But Meredith doesn't stop. "You know, Mom, maybe if you thought a little more about money, you wouldn't have to live in that dump and skimp on heating." "I don't skimp on heating," I lie. "Yeah, right." Meredith takes another sip of wine. "Last time I visited you, it was freezing in there, and you were wearing 2 sweaters." "My hands just get cold easily," I say, hiding my red, cold water cracked fingers under the table. "Sure." Meredith shakes her head. "You know, it's all because you let your father leave. If you had tried harder, he would have stayed, and you would be living a normal life in your house. Now you're an old divorced woman with a minimal pension." Her words hit me hard. I don't know what to say. Didn't I try? Didn't I turn a blind eye to his late nights, the strange phone calls, the business trips that got longer and longer? Didn't I try to be the best wife, mother, and housewife I could be? I look at my beautiful, successful daughter, and I don't recognize her. Where is the little girl who hugged me and told me I was the best mom in the world? "Mom, what's wrong?" Wesley asks suddenly, and I realize that tears are welling up in my eyes. "Everything's fine, dear," I smile through gritted teeth. "I'm just a little tired." I get up and start clearing the plates. "Leave it," says Meredith. "Brianna will wash them." "I don't mind." "I said leave it," she says, her voice ringing with irritation. "You're not a housekeeper." But we both know I feel like one here. A housekeeper who cooks, cleans, and leaves when her services are no longer needed. At that moment, Brianna comes downstairs. She has already changed into her pajamas, her long hair pulled back into a messy bun. "Grandma, could you lend me some money?" she asks without looking at me. "I need a new dress for the school dance." "Brianna," Meredith scolds her, "you can't just ask your grandmother for money like that." "What's the big deal?" Brianna shrugs. "You said yourself that she only spends her pension on us anyway." I feel my face flush. Is that what they say about me behind my back? "How much do you need, sweetie?" I ask, trying to keep my voice normal. $200, she replies, as if asking for pocket change. $200 is a quarter of my monthly pension. After paying for rent, utilities, and medicine, I have only about $300 left for food and everything else. I begin, not knowing what to say. "That's too much, Brianna," Chris interjects. "Grandma can't give you that much." "Why not?" Brianna pouts. "She's an old, divorced failure. She has nothing else to spend her money on." The silence at the table rings like broken glass. Meredith looks shocked, Chris angry, Wesley embarrassed. And I feel something inside me breaking. "Brianna!" Meredith finally finds her voice. "Apologize immediately." "For what?" Brianna snaps back. "You said it yourself, that Grandma is a failure because she couldn't keep Grandpa, and now she has to live on pennies and beg." Meredith turns pale. She never thought her words would affect me like this. "I never," she begins, but stops because we both know she's lying. I stand up. Silently, I take my coat from the hanger. My hands are shaking so much that I can't button it. "Grandma," Wesley comes up to me. "Don't leave like this. Brianna didn't mean it." "It's okay, dear," I say, but my voice sounds foreign, distant. "I just need to go home." "I'll drive you," Chris offers. "No, I'd rather take the bus." I step out into the cold, dark night. Streetlights cast yellow circles of light on the wet asphalt. I walk to the bus stop, feeling emptiness growing inside me. Years of sacrifice, care, love. And this is how it all ends. My own daughter thinks I'm a failure. My granddaughter repeats her words without a shadow of a doubt. The bus arrives almost immediately. I sit by the window and watch the houses, shops, and parks of Millbridge float by. Somewhere in these streets, my life has passed. I gave birth to and raised 2 children, worked for more than 3 decades, loved a husband who ultimately chose another woman over me. And now I'm going back to an empty apartment where I don't even have a cat. Pets aren't allowed in my building. Tears stream down my cheeks, but I don't wipe them away. Let them fall. Besides me, there are only a couple of teenagers with headphones and an old man dozing in the corner. No one pays any attention to me. I'm invisible. I've always been invisible. But something changed today. Inside me, behind the emptiness and pain, a tiny spark of anger is burning. I don't deserve this. I'm not a failure just because my marriage fell apart. And maybe it's time to tell Meredith the truth about why her father really left us. The morning after the family dinner greets me with a headache and eyes swollen from crying. I slept poorly, tossing and turning on my old mattress, replaying Brianna's words over and over in my head. Old divorced loser. It's amazing how a few words can gut a person, leaving only an empty shell. I force myself to get up. Small rituals help me stay afloat. Boiling the kettle, pouring oatmeal into a bowl, placing the only cup with a chipped rim on the table, the one Meredith gave me for Mother's Day. "To the best mom in the world," the faded inscription reads. I wonder if she believed that then, and when did she stop believing? Outside, it's drizzling, gray, dreary, typical for Millbridge at this time of year. I look at the wet trees below, the empty playground, the parking lot where my neighbor Vance is covering his old pickup truck with a tarp. It's a normal morning on a normal day. But something has changed. I have changed. For the first time in a long time, I feel not just tired and resigned, but truly angry. It's boiling somewhere deep inside, making my hands shake as I try to hold my cup. The phone rings, pulling me out of my thoughts. It's Meredith. I'm not ready to talk to her, so I let the call go to voicemail. A minute later, a message arrives. "Call me when you can talk." No apology, no admission of guilt, typical of my daughter. I decide to do some cleaning to take my mind off things. My apartment is so small that I can usually clean it in an hour, but today I intend to do something more thorough. I've been meaning to clean out the storage closet for a long time, a tiny niche by the front door where I keep boxes of things I couldn't throw away after moving. I pull out the first box. It smells of dust and the past. Inside are knitted baby hats that I kept after Meredith and Gareth grew up. Why? In the hope that one day they would be useful for my grandchildren? The thought brings a bitter smile to my lips. Brianna and Wesley never wore anything I made. Too old-fashioned, as Meredith once said. The next box contains photo albums. I open one at random. Elliot and I are at the beach, both young, tanned, smiling. His arm is around my waist, my head is on his shoulder. When was this? Judging by my hairstyle, it must have been the early 80s, shortly after Meredith was born. A happy time. At least I thought so. I flip through the pages. Here's Elliot holding newborn Gareth in his arms. There we are, all four of us, in front of our first home. Small, but ours. Elliot looks distant even in this photo, his gaze directed somewhere else, not at us. Was he ever really with us? Or did he always dream of a different life? In the back of the closet, I find another box, smaller. There's no label on it, and I don't immediately remember what's inside. When I open it, I freeze. Inside is a carved wooden box, a gift from my grandmother on my 18th birthday. I haven't seen it in years, having forgotten that I put it here before we moved. The box is heavier than I remember. Inside are letters, postcards, and several brooches that I never wore because they seemed too fancy for work at the post office. And a folder, a plain red paper folder, worn at the edges. I know what's inside, but I open it anyway, as if hoping that the contents have magically changed. Printouts of emails, dozens of pages stapled together, letters that Elliot had written to his mistress, Faye, letters that I had accidentally discovered on our home computer the day he forgot to log out of his email. I didn't want to read them. I really didn't. But something made me click on the first letter, then the next, and the next. That night, I sat in front of the monitor until dawn, reading the details of their affair, their plans, their dreams for the future. Together. Elliot was never particularly good with technology. He didn't know how to clear his browser history or protect his account. Or maybe he didn't care anymore whether I found out or not. Maybe he even wanted me to find those letters, to spare him the need to explain himself. I pick up the first letter and start reading. Dear Faye, I can't stop thinking about our date last weekend. You looked beautiful in that blue dress. All I could think about was taking it off you. Nausea rises in my throat. Even years later, those words still hurt. It's not so much the overt sexuality, I've never been a prude, as his obvious admiration for another woman. When was the last time he told me I was beautiful? That he couldn't stop thinking about me? I flip through the pages. I know most of the letters by heart. I've read them so many times that the words are etched in my memory. But one catches my eye, as if I'm seeing it for the first time. It's dated 3 months before Elliot announced the divorce. Eve doesn't suspect a thing. She's completely absorbed in her grandchildren and that damn job at the post office. Sometimes I think she wouldn't even notice if I disappeared. Our marriage has long since turned into a neighborhood between two strangers. She doesn't understand me, my ambitions, my desires. It's different with you, Faye. You see the real me, I snort. The real him? How ironic. Faye never saw him snore so loud that the walls shook. How he picks his teeth at dinner. How he leaves dirty socks all over the house. She only saw the retouched version. The man who dressed up for her and brought her flowers. The man who gave her time and attention stolen from his family. Another letter, a later one. And the plan is ready. I've filed for early retirement. I'll get a payout, enough to start over with a clean slate. We can sell the house after the divorce. An apartment will be enough for Evie. She doesn't need much. And you and I could move to Florida like we always dreamed. I've already looked at some real estate online. Memories wash over me like a tidal wave. There we are with Elliot at the real estate agency. He insists on selling the house. It's too big for the two of us, Evie. The kids are grown. Why do we need so much space? I resist. I love this house. Every corner, every creaky floorboard. But he is persistent, and in the end, I give in, as always. Only later, when the money from the sale disappeared somewhere and I was left with a minimal amount, "I'm sorry, the investment was unsuccessful, the market is unstable," did I begin to guess the truth. But by then it was too late. The house is sold, the divorce is final, and Elliot has disappeared from our lives, occasionally showing up at family holidays, and even then without much enthusiasm. I never told the children the whole truth. Why destroy their image of their father? Let them think that we just grew apart, as Elliot liked to say. Let them believe that I couldn't keep him. It's easier than admitting that their father is a liar and a manipulator who planned his escape like a criminal plans a bank robbery. But now that my own daughter has called me a failure because of my divorce, maybe they should know the truth. I put the letters aside and close my eyes. My memory helpfully provides me with images from the past. Here's Elliot missing Meredith's school play. "Sorry, honey. Important meeting, can't be rescheduled." Meredith is crying backstage, and I comfort her as best I can. Here he is forgetting Gareth's birthday, coming home drunk at 2 a.m. when the birthday cake has gone stale and the child is long asleep, hurt and disappointed. He refuses to go with me to visit my dying mother. I'm allergic to hospitals, Evie, you know that. I go alone, swallowing my tears in the back seat of the bus. Always. His interests, his convenience, his desires came first, and I adapted, forgave, and made excuses for him to the children and to myself. "You know how busy Dad is," I told Meredith when she asked why her father hadn't come to her graduation. "Dad has a hard job, he's tired," I explained to Gareth when Elliot refused to play baseball with him yet again. Lie after lie, year after year, and then he just left, leaving me to deal with the pieces of our life. And the worst thing is, I let him. I let him go without exposing him, without telling the whole truth, for the sake of the children, or out of fear that they would take his side. A knock on the door snaps me out of my memories. I flinch and quickly put the letters back in the box. Who could that be? Meredith? No, she would have called first. "Evelyn, are you home?" It's my neighbor, Lynette, her voice muffled by the door. I wipe my eyes, try to compose myself, and go to open the door. Lynette is standing in the doorway with a paper bag in her hands. She's 4 years younger than me, but looks younger. Dyed auburn hair, bright lipstick, flashy jewelry. A former nurse, she retired 2 years ago after back surgery. We met in the laundry room in the basement of the building, 2 lonely women waiting for their laundry to dry. "I brought some fresh cinnamon rolls," she says, handing me a bag. "Robert from the 5th floor baked them. He says it's his grandmother's recipe." "Thank you," I say, letting her in, glad I had time to wipe away my tears. "Would you like some tea?" "Coffee, if you have any," Lynette says, walking into the kitchen and opening the cupboards like a pro, looking for cups. "I slept terribly last night. This arthritis is killing me." I put the kettle on and take out a jar of instant coffee. Lynette is already putting the rolls on a plate, humming to herself. "How was dinner at your daughter's?" she asks casually, but I sense that the question is not so simple. "Fine," I reply automatically. Lynette turns to me, squinting, studying my face. "You're lying," she concludes. "Your eyes are red and puffy. What happened? Did they hurt you again?" I want to lie, to say that everything is fine, but instead a sob escapes me, then another, and now I'm sobbing, my face buried in my hands, while Lynette strokes my back, murmuring something comforting. When the first wave of tears subsides, I tell her everything. Brianna's words, Meredith's reaction, my humiliating escape. "An old divorced failure," I repeat, wiping my eyes with a kitchen towel. "That's how my own granddaughter sees me, and Meredith apparently too." Lynette shakes her head, her face darkening. "Bitches," she says bluntly. "I'm sorry, Evie, but it's true. Your daughter is a spoiled bitch, and she raised a daughter just like her." "Lynette!" I'm shocked by her words. "Don't talk about Meredith like that. She's had a difficult life." "Everyone has a difficult life," Lynette snaps. "That doesn't give her the right to treat you like a doormat." I remain silent, not knowing what to say. Part of me wants to defend Meredith. Maternal instinct is not so easy to silence. But another part, the part that broke yesterday, acknowledges that Lynette is right. "And why do you let them?" she continues, pouring coffee into the cups. "You're not a doormat, Evie. You're a living person with feelings and dignity." Why do you let them walk all over you? They're my family, I reply quietly. What else do I have? You can say no. Lynette takes a sip of coffee and grimaces at the bitterness. God, do you have any sugar? This stuff is undrinkable without sugar. I get the sugar bowl and automatically add 2 spoonfuls to her cup and 1 to mine. We sit in silence for a while, sipping our coffee and watching the rain, which has gotten heavier. You know, Lynette says finally, I worked in a hospital for 32 years. I saw everything. And you know what I noticed? People treat you the way you let them. If you let them use you, they'll use you until there's nothing left, and you won't get any thanks for it. I nod, remembering the box of letters. Wasn't it the same with Elliot? I let him ignore his family, shirk his responsibilities, and in the end, he just left. What am I supposed to do? I ask, feeling helpless. Meredith isn't easy to say no to. It's easy, Lynette says, taking a bite of her bagel. 2 strokes of the tongue on the roof of your mouth, and voila! No. Try it, it doesn't hurt. I can't help smiling. You know what I mean. I know, she nods. And I still say it's time to stop being a doormat. They don't respect you, Evie, and they won't until you demand respect. There's truth in her words. Bitter, uncomfortable truth. I remember Brianna, her haughty face when she asked me for $200, as if it was her right to get money from me. I always wanted the best for them, I say, staring into my cup. I always tried to help, to support. And they take it for granted, Lynette finishes, as if you owe them everything you have and should thank them for the opportunity to give it to them. She's right. When was the last time I heard thank you from Meredith? When was the last time Brianna hugged me just because? Not because she wanted something. What should I do? I repeat. Lynette thinks for a moment, twirling a teaspoon between her fingers. For starters, stop being so available, she says. Don't be a doormat. Don't give money just because they ask for it. Set boundaries, Evie. They'll be hurt, I object. Meredith will be furious. Let her, Lynette shrugs. That's her problem, not yours. You don't have to sacrifice yourself for her convenience. I'm silent, digesting her words. Set boundaries. Say no. It sounds simple, but to me it's like jumping off a cliff without a parachute. Scary, unfamiliar, dangerous. And one more thing. Lynette leans closer. What happened with Elliot? I mean, really. You said you grew apart, but I've been in medicine for 100 years, Evie. I can smell a lie a mile away. I hesitate. I'm not used to talking about this out loud, but today, after everything that's happened, he had another woman, I say quietly. Faye. They'd been seeing each other behind my back for over a year. He was planning to leave, sell the house, and move to Florida with her. In fact, he did. But he told me the money from the sale of the house was lost in a bad investment. Lynette whistles. What a bastard, she says with feeling. And you kept that a secret? Why? I shrug. For the kids, I guess. I didn't want them to know what their father was really like. And now they think you're a loser who couldn't keep her husband, Lynette concludes. Brilliant plan, I must say. Her words hurt, but I know she's right. By keeping quiet, I unwittingly supported Elliot's version of events. I let him walk away clean, and I'm left with the guilt. I have proof, I say, nodding toward the living room where the box of letters is still sitting. I found and printed out his correspondence with Faye. It's all there. Their affair, their plans, how he was going to take the money and leave us. Lynette's eyes light up. And you still haven't shown this to Meredith? She shakes her head. God, Evie, sometimes you amaze me. I didn't want to hurt the children, and now they're hurting you, she interrupts. And they'll keep hurting you until you show them the truth. I look at my hands, old with protruding veins and age spots, hands that have worked so hard for so many years to give my children a better life. Hands that now tremble with helplessness and resentment. Maybe Lynette is right. Maybe it's time to stop being a doormat and start being a person, with my own needs, my own boundaries, my own dignity. I'll think about it, I say, and for the first time in a long time, there is determination in my voice. Lynette looks at me intently, then nods, apparently satisfied with what she sees. Good, she says. Just don't think too long. Life is short, Evie. Too short to waste on people who don't appreciate you. She finishes her coffee and stands up. I have to go. I have a doctor's appointment at 11. These damn knees won't give me any peace. I walk her to the door. Before she leaves, she gives me a big hug. Remember, Evie, you're stronger than you think, and you deserve better. After she leaves, I go back to the living room where the box of letters is waiting for me. I open it and flip through the pages. I've kept them all these years, not daring to show them to my children, afraid of their reaction. But now I'm not sure I'm doing them any favors by keeping quiet. Lynette's words ring in my ears. It's time to stop being a doormat. She's right. It's time. I carefully fold the letters, close the box, and place it on the coffee table. Meredith will probably call again tomorrow, or she'll drop by, and then we'll talk. The next morning begins with a phone call. I'm already awake, but still lying in bed, thinking about yesterday's conversation with Lynette. The phone vibrates on the nightstand, displaying Meredith's name. I look at the screen, hesitating to answer. In the past, I would have dropped everything and grabbed the phone after the first ring, afraid of missing a call from my daughter. Now I hesitate, gathering my thoughts. Finally, I answer. Good morning, Meredith. Mom, are you still asleep? Her voice is impatient and irritated. Typical. No, I was just gathering my thoughts. I reply calmly. Listen, about what happened the day before yesterday. She pauses, and I wait for an apology, but instead I hear, Brianna was just repeating what she heard. Don't take it so personally. You know how teenagers are. They say things without thinking. I feel a wave of indignation rising inside me. That's not an apology. It's not even an admission that they were wrong. Meredith, your daughter called me an old loser, I say, trying to remain calm. And you didn't stop her. I told her to apologize, Meredith defends herself, only after she said it, and only because Chris and Wesley were shocked. There is silence on the other end of the line. Then Meredith sighs. Mom, I'm not calling to fight. I have an important meeting today, and I can't take Wesley to the orthodontist. Could you take him? At 4 o'clock. There it is, always the same. No apology, just new requests, new demands. I look at the box I placed in a prominent place so I wouldn't forget my decision. No, I say, and the word feels strange on my lips. Unfamiliar. But right. What do you mean, no? Meredith is clearly surprised. Do you have plans? No, I repeat. Just no, I can't take Wesley to the orthodontist today. Mom, are you upset about Brianna? Seriously? That's silly. It's not about being upset, Meredith, I interrupt. It's about respect, or rather the lack of it. What are you talking about? I want to talk to you, I say firmly, in person. Can you come over today? Mom, aren't you listening? I have an important meeting. I can't. After the meeting, I insist. This is important, Meredith. She sighs again, this time with obvious irritation. Fine, I'll try to stop by tonight, but about Wesley. Have Chris take him, I say, or reschedule the appointment. Chris is at a construction site in Portland. He won't be back until tomorrow, and we can't reschedule. We've been waiting 2 months for this appointment. Then cancel your meeting, I suggest, or get a taxi for Wesley. You know I can't cancel. Wait, she suddenly stops. What's going on with you? You've never talked like that before. Maybe it's time to start, I reply, surprised at my own boldness. I'll see you tonight, Meredith. We really need to talk. I end the conversation before she can respond. My heart is pounding, my hands are shaking, but a strange feeling of satisfaction spreads through my body. A small victory, a tiny step toward not being a doormat anymore. The day drags on. I clean the apartment, even though it's already clean, cook lunch even though I'm not hungry, and rearrange the books on the shelves in alphabetical order. Anything to keep my hands busy and distract myself from thoughts of the upcoming conversation. The box sits on the coffee table, a silent reminder of what is about to happen. I walk over to it several times, open it, reread the letters. With each reading, they cause less pain and more anger. How could I have let Elliot deceive me like that? And why did I let him get away with it? Taking the blame for the breakup of the family. At 4 o'clock, the phone rings. Wesley. Grandma? His voice sounds confused. Mom said you can't take me to the orthodontist? I'm sorry, dear, I say, and I really mean it. Wesley isn't to blame for his mother and sister's disrespectful behavior toward me. I won't be able to make it today. It's okay, he says quietly. Mom said you're angry because of what Brianna said. She didn't mean to hurt you, Grandma. I mean, she was just repeating. I know, I interrupt gently. Don't worry, sweetie. Mom and I will talk today and figure everything out. Really? His voice sounds hopeful. She's been yelling all morning that you're acting like a spoiled child. The words sting, but I hold back. Everything will be fine, I promise. How about going to the movies this weekend? Just you and me? That would be great. He perks up. There's a new superhero movie out. It's a date. I smile, even though he can't see it. How are you going to get to the orthodontist? My mom called a taxi, he replies. She was really angry about it. I'm sorry, I say automatically, then catch myself. No, I shouldn't apologize. I didn't create this situation. I hope the appointment goes well. Call me later and let me know how it went. After talking to Wesley, I feel a little guilty, but at the same time confident that I'm doing the right thing. It's time to put an end to this vicious dynamic where I'm always available, always ready to help, and all I get in return is contempt. Around 7 in the evening, the doorbell rings, sharp, demanding. Meredith. I take a deep breath, trying to calm my nerves, and go to open the door. My daughter is standing on the threshold, her face flushed with either anger or the exertion of climbing the stairs. Her hair, usually styled perfectly, is tousled today, and her eyes show a mixture of fatigue and irritation. I hope this is really important, she says, instead of a greeting, walking past me into the apartment. I canceled dinner with a potential client to come here. Hello, Meredith, I say calmly. Yes, it's important. Would you like some tea? No, I want to understand what's going on, she says, throwing her bag on the sofa. First you refuse to help with Wesley, now you demand that I come here. Is this because of what Brianna said? Are you really that hurt? I sit down in the armchair opposite the sofa, motioning for her to sit down too. It's not just what Brianna said, I begin. Although yes, it was hurtful. It's the way you all treat me. Like I'm second best. Like a servant who's always supposed to be on call when you need something. What nonsense, Meredith snorts. We're just a family, Mom. Families help each other. Help, I agree, but mutually. What do I get in return, Meredith? Respect? Gratitude? No, only criticism and contempt. She rolls her eyes. You're being dramatic. I appreciate your help, but if you want me to fall to my knees in gratitude every time, I want you to treat me like a human being, not a convenient service, I interrupt, and I want you to teach your children to do the same. Meredith crosses her arms over her chest, her face hardening. If that's all you wanted to say, then I think I'll go. I've had a rough day, and I'm not in the mood for lectures. No, that's not all, I say, reaching for the box, opening it and taking out a folder with letters. There's something you need to see. What is it? She asks, looking at the folder suspiciously. The truth, I reply, handing her the first letter. The truth about why your father really left us. Meredith reluctantly takes the sheet and begins to read. Her face changes from irritation to bewilderment, then to shock. What is this? She repeats, but in a different tone. Letters from your father to his mistress, I say bluntly. Faye Daniels. They had been seeing each other for over a year before he announced the divorce. He planned everything, leaving the family, selling the house, starting a new life in Florida. That could have been anything, Meredith says, looking at the letter suspiciously. Maybe you misunderstood. Read the rest, I say, pointing to the folder. It's crystal clear. She picks up the next letter hesitantly, then another. I see her expression change with every page she reads. Disbelief gives way to understanding, then pain, then anger. Bastard, she exhaled, finishing a particularly candid letter in which Elliot described how he planned to free himself from the shackles of marriage. Fucking bastard. I remained silent, allowing her to continue reading. When she reached the letter where Elliot discussed selling the house, her hands began to tremble. He was planning to steal the money from the sale of the house? Her voice rings with indignation. Your house? The house where we grew up? Yes, I reply simply. And he did it. He told me the money was lost in a bad investment, but in reality, he bought a house in Florida for himself and Faye. But why didn't you say anything? Meredith looks up at me, her eyes full of tears and anger. Why didn't you tell us? I didn't want you to know what he was really like, I say quietly. I wanted to protect you from the pain. Protect? Meredith jumps up, letters scattering across the floor. You let us think it was your fault you got divorced, that you couldn't keep him. All this time She stops, realizing what she has just said. All this time they thought it was my fault. They thought I was a failure who couldn't handle being a wife. All this time you thought less of me than I deserved, I finish for her, and you treated me accordingly. Meredith sinks back onto the sofa as if her legs can no longer support her. She looks at the scattered letters, then at me, and I see confusion in her eyes. But why now? She asks. Why are you showing me this now after all these years? Because your daughter called me an old failure, and you didn't stop her, I reply. Because I'm tired of being the whipping boy in this family. Because it's time you knew the truth. Meredith picks up one of the letters again and rereads it. He wrote about us, as if we were a hindrance. Her voice trembles, as if we were something to be gotten rid of so he could start a new life. Yes, I don't soften the blow. For your father, family always came second. His desires, his comfort, his happiness, that's what mattered. Everything else was secondary. How could I not have seen it? Meredith shakes her head. How could I have been so blind? Because you didn't want to see it, I say without reproach, simply stating a fact. It was easier to blame me than him. He was always a master at charming people, making them see what he wanted them to see. Meredith looks at me for a long time, as if seeing me for the first time. This changes everything, she says quietly. Does it? I ask. Or will you just find another reason to continue treating me like someone who owes you something? Her face flashes with anger. What do you mean? I mean, Meredith, it's not just about your father, I say firmly. It's about you too. It's about how you let your children talk to me. It's about how you talk to me. It's about how you take my help for granted. That's not fair, she jumps up again. I just found out that my father is a lying adulterer, and you're trying to make me feel guilty? I'm not blaming anyone, I say calmly. I'm just telling the truth. The way you treat me, Meredith, is disrespectful, and I'm not going to put up with it anymore. You won't put up with it? She snorts. What are you going to do? Stop seeing us? Refuse to help with the kids? If I have to, yes, I say, surprised at the firmness of my voice. I love you, Meredith. I love Brianna and Wesley, but I won't let you treat me like a servant or a burden anymore. Meredith looks at me suspiciously. Are you blackmailing me? With your attention to your grandchildren? No, I shake my head. I'm setting boundaries. They're different things. Boundaries, she says, mocking the word. Where did you pick up that psychological nonsense? From your nurse friend? Maybe, I agree. Lynette has helped me understand a few things, like the fact that I deserve respect. Even from my own daughter, Meredith suddenly changes tactics. Her face softens, her voice becomes almost ingratiating. Mom, you know I appreciate everything you do for us. It's just that life is so complicated right now. Work, kids, the house. I can't always be attentive. I'm sorry if I hurt your feelings. Another time I would have melted at those words, rushed to assure her that everything was fine, that I understood. But not today. Everyone's life is complicated, Meredith, I say. That's no excuse for disrespect. What do you want? She spreads her arms. For me to get down on my knees and beg for forgiveness? For Brianna to write an apology essay? What? I want you to understand, I say patiently, understand that I am a person with feelings, dignity, boundaries, that I am not obligated to be available at a moment's notice, that I deserve gratitude for my help, not criticism for not doing enough. Meredith looks at me for a long time, then sinks back onto the sofa. She picks up another letter and skims through it. I can't believe he did that to us, she says quietly, and that you kept it from us for so many years. I was trying to protect you, I repeat. Maybe it was a mistake, but I did what I thought was right. And now? She looks up at me. Is this what you think is right too? To hit me with this truth when I least expect it? When would have been better, I ask. When you were ready to hear that your father isn't the man you thought he was all these years? She is silent, acknowledging the truth of my words. What are you going to do now? She finally asks. Are you going to tell Gareth? If he wants to know, yes, I nod. But I wanted to talk to you first. Because I treat you worse than anyone else? There is bitterness in her voice. Because you're my daughter, and I hope we can change our relationship for the better, I replied gently. If you want to. Meredith looks at the letters scattered on the floor, then at me. Her eyes are filled with a mixture of emotions that I can't quite decipher. Anger, pain, confusion, maybe even a glimmer of remorse. I need to think, she says finally. This is too much all at once. I understand, I nod. But I want you to know that I'm not going to stay silent when you or the children speak to me disrespectfully anymore. I won't always be available at your beck and call, and I won't fund Brianna's whims out of my meager pension anymore. So, you're refusing to help? The reproach returns to her voice. No, I shake my head. I refuse to be used. There's a difference. Meredith gathers the letters and puts them back in the folder. Can I take them? She asks. I want to reread them with a clear head. I nod. Of course, just bring them back. She puts the folder in her bag, then looks at me as if she doesn't know what to say or do. I'm going to go, she says finally. I need to process all this. I walk her to the door. At the threshold, she suddenly turns around. Why didn't you fight for him? For your marriage? If you knew about Faye, why didn't you try to get him back? The question catches me off guard. I think for a moment, then reply, because you can't keep someone who doesn't want to stay, and because I deserved better than a man who could do that to his family. Meredith looks at me in surprise, as if the thought had never occurred to her. Go, I say softly. Think about everything. We'll talk when you're ready. She nods and leaves, and I close the door and lean against it, feeling both exhausted and strangely relieved. For the first time in many years, I have spoken the truth. For the first time, I have not remained silent, have not given in, have not put someone else's feelings above my own. I don't know how Meredith will react in the end. Maybe her anger will find a new target. Not me, but my father. Maybe she'll still find a way to blame me for keeping quiet, for not fighting back, for choosing the wrong moment to reveal the truth. But it doesn't matter anymore. I told the truth. I set my boundaries, and for the first time in a long time, I feel like a human being, not a doormat, alive, real, with a right to respect and dignity. I go to the kitchen and put the kettle on. Outside, it starts to rain, a soft spring rain washing over the streets of Millbridge. I watch the drops run down the glass, washing away the dust and dirt, making the world cleaner, clearer. Maybe my conversation with Meredith will do the same for our relationship, wash away years of misunderstanding and hurt, allow us to start with a clean slate. Or maybe not. But either way, I'm not going to stay silent anymore. I'm not going to put up with disrespect anymore. I'm not going to be invisible in my own family anymore. The week after my conversation with Meredith passes in tense silence. My daughter doesn't call or stop by, as if she needs time to process everything she heard. I don't impose myself on her, giving her space to think. Relationships don't change overnight. We both need to get used to a new reality where I am no longer a silent victim, but a person with my own voice and boundaries. On Thursday, Gareth calls. For the first time in almost 2 months. His voice sounds strange, strained. Mom, are you okay? Hi, son, I reply, trying to figure out what's behind his call. Yes, I'm fine. How are you? Fine, he pauses. Meredith called me yesterday. She told me about Dad, about the letters. So that's what it was. Meredith did share the news with her brother after all. I wonder what she told him. I understand, I say cautiously. That must have been a shock. More like another disappointment, he says bitterly. He was never a model father. But to think he planned all this, that he cheated you out of the money from the house. Gareth falls silent, and I can hear him breathing heavily. I'm sorry you only found out now, I say. I wanted to spare you the pain. And instead, we blamed you, he says quietly, almost in a whisper. All these years, we thought it was you who couldn't keep the family together. You didn't know, I say, but his words still hurt. So Gareth thought I was a failure too. We should have known, he insists. I should have. I got too caught up in my own problems, my own life. I'm sorry, Mom. His apology sounds sincere, and I feel something tighten in my chest. My boy, my little Gareth, who was always so sensitive, so vulnerable beneath his mask of detachment. It's okay, I say softly. We all make mistakes. I'll come by on Sunday, he says firmly. I want to see you, to talk properly. It's been a long time. I'll be waiting, I reply, smiling into the phone. Bring the photos of the kids. I haven't seen them in so long. After talking to Gareth, I feel strangely calm. Maybe all is not lost. Maybe these revelations will be the beginning of something new and healthier in our relationship. On Friday morning, the doorbell rings. Meredith is standing on the doorstep, peeing, with dark circles under her eyes, but determined. Hi, she says, not looking me in the eye. Can I come in? I let her in. She walks into the living room, sits down on the sofa, and nervously fiddles with the strap of her bag. I read all the letters, she says finally, several times, and I talked to my father. This catches me off guard. You called Elliot? Yes. She looks up. I wanted to hear his side of the story. You know what he said? That it was a long time ago, that I don't understand the whole situation, that you were both unhappy in your marriage. And you believed him? I ask, feeling my shoulders tense. No, Meredith shakes her head. Not this time. The letters. They're too honest. He wasn't just unhappy, he was planning to cheat on me. And he's still lying, even now. I exhale slowly, not realizing I've been holding my breath. Thank you, I say quietly. For what? Meredith looks surprised. For believing me, and not him. She lowers her eyes. I should have always believed you. You never gave me a reason to doubt you. There is an awkward but not hostile silence. Finally, Meredith speaks again. I wanted to apologize. For everything. For how I treated you all these years. For letting Brianna say those things. For taking your help for granted. Her words sound sincere, and I feel my eyes fill with tears. I accept your apology, I say. And I hope we can build a new relationship. A healthier one. Yes, she nods. That's what I wanted to talk about too. About new boundaries, as you said. I hear a slight mockery in her voice when she says boundaries, but I decide to ignore it. I meant that I won't always be available at the drop of a hat, I explain. I love helping with the kids, I really do, but I need to have a life of my own. I understand, Meredith nods, but I see the concern in her eyes. It's just, what am I going to do about Wesley? He keeps asking about you. He says you were going to the movies this weekend. Yes, I confirm. I promised him we'd go see the new superhero movie. I'm working on Saturday, Meredith says, and Chris is taking Brianna to some concert. I thought maybe you could... She stops, seeing the look on my face. I'm sorry, she says quickly. I'm being myself again. I just thought since you already had plans... I'd love to spend time with Wesley, I say. By bus? Meredith frowns. But that's not very convenient. For whom? I ask calmly. For him or for you? She sighs. Okay, you're right. He can get there on his own. I'm just used to... You're used to me always accommodating you, I finish for her. But now it's going to be different. Meredith nods, then changes the subject. Is something wrong with your porch? I noticed it's all crooked. Yes, I sigh. The manager promised to fix it a month ago, but he hasn't gotten around to it yet. He says he has more important things to do. Maybe Chris could take a look? Meredith suggests. He is a builder, after all. Thanks, but I've already arranged it with my neighbor, I reply. Vance promised to help this weekend. Vance? Meredith raises her eyebrows. Is that the gloomy guy with the pickup truck? He's not gloomy, I defend him. He's just a man of few words, and very kind once you get to know him. Meredith looks at me curiously. Do you guys hang out a lot? Sometimes, I shrug. He helped me with a leaky faucet last winter, and we drink coffee in the common room sometimes. Meredith looks like she wants to say something else but changes her mind. Anyway, I'm glad you have someone to help with the porch. We talk a little more about Meredith's job, about Brianna, who, it turns out, is no longer a vegetarian, but a flexitarian, whatever that means, about Gareth, who is coming to visit on Sunday. The conversation isn't easy. We're both still cautious, testing the waters, but it doesn't have the same tension, the same inequality. When Meredith leaves, I feel a strange sense of relief. The first step has been taken. New boundaries have been set, and they seem to have been accepted. On Saturday, Wesley arrives right on time, at noon sharp. I see him from the window, tall, lanky, wearing a jacket that's too big for him and carrying a backpack. He looks around as if he's seeing my house from this side for the first time. Usually he was dropped off and picked up by car. "Hi, Grandma." He hugs me at the door. "I drove here myself. Can you believe it? I didn't get lost once." "I never doubted you," I smile. "Come in, I've made lunch." We sit in the kitchen, eating my pancakes with maple syrup, his favorite since childhood. He talks about school, some computer games, and a new skate park that opened near his house. I listen, ask questions, and suddenly realize that for the first time in a long time, we are really talking. We're not just exchanging pleasantries when I pick him up from school or make dinner for the family. We're really communicating. "You know," Wesley says suddenly, interrupting his story about his physics teacher, "Mom said you guys talked, about Grandpa and stuff." I tense up. "Yes, we did." "She said he was very mean to you," Wesley continues, staring at his plate, "and that we were all unfair to you." "Your mom said that?" I'm surprised. I didn't expect Meredith to be so open with her son. "Yes," he nods. "She was crying. I've never seen Mom cry, except when Uncle Rob died." I'm silent, not knowing what to say. Rob was Chris's brother, killed in a car accident 3 years ago. Meredith was very close to him. "And she also said that we should appreciate you more," Wesley adds, "that you've done so much more for us than we deserve." "Well, that's not entirely true," I object gently. "You're my family. I love you and want to help." "But we were rude," Wesley insists, "especially Brianna. She always talks to you like you're, I don't know, some kind of maid." His directness surprises me. Children often see more than we think they do. Brianna's just going through a difficult age, I say diplomatically. All teenagers are rude. "I'm a teenager too," Wesley objects, "but I don't talk to people like they're trash." I smile at his serious face. "You're special, Wes. You always have been." He smiles sheepishly, then changes the subject. "What about your porch?" "It looks like it's about to fall apart." "My neighbor promised to help today," I reply. "Vance, he lives downstairs. He used to own a repair shop." "Cool," Wesley perks up. "Can I help too? I'm pretty good with tools. My dad taught me." "Sure, if you want." I nod, surprised by his enthusiasm. "But first, let's have lunch and go to the movies like we planned." After lunch, we head to the movie theater, which is a 20-minute walk from my house. It's a clear day, so we decide to walk. On the way, Wesley tells me about his new hobby, robotics. "There's a club at school," he says excitedly. "We build robots and program them to do different tasks. There's a competition next month." "That sounds interesting," I reply. "You've always loved building things." "Yeah," he nods. "Remember when we built that birdhouse when I was 7? It's still hanging in our yard and birds live in it every spring." I'm surprised he remembers. That was 8 years ago. Meredith and Chris were away for the weekend, and I was home with the kids. Brianna had gone to sleep over at a friend's house, and Wesley and I decided to build a birdhouse. It took us all day, but it was worth it. "Of course I remember," I smile. "You were so proud when we finished it." "I'm still proud," he admits. "It's the only thing in the yard that I made myself." At the movie theater, we get popcorn and a Coke, a small size for the two of us because the prices are outrageous. The movie turns out to be loud and confusing, with lots of special effects and little meaning, but Wesley is thrilled, and his enthusiasm is contagious. We return home in the evening. Vance, a short, stocky man with gray stubble and a weather-beaten face, meets us at the door. He's wearing old jeans and a flannel shirt, and there is a box of tools next to him. "Hi, Evie," he nods. "I was just about to start on the porch." Hi, Vance, I smile. This is my grandson, Wesley. He wants to help too. Vance looks Wesley over appraisingly. You know how to use tools, kid? A little, Wesley replies. My dad's a builder. He taught me a lot. Good, Vance nods. Then grab a hammer and pull those nails out while I check the supports. The next 2 hours fly by. Vance works silently, giving instructions only occasionally. Wesley diligently does everything he is told. I bring them lemonade and sandwiches, watching my porch transform from a crooked structure ready to collapse at any moment into a sturdy, reliable platform. You're a great team, I remark when they take a break. The kid's a quick learner, Vance says, which is high praise coming from him. He could work in my shop if it were still open. Why did you close it? Wesley asks with genuine interest. Vance frowns, and I fear he won't answer. He doesn't like to talk about the past. But to my surprise, he begins to explain. Competition, kid. Big chains like Home Depot drove the small workshops out of business. People would rather throw something broken away and buy something new than fix the old thing. And I don't know how to do anything else but fix things. That's not fair, Wesley says. Fixing things is much more environmentally friendly than throwing them away. Vance looks at him with new interest. You're right, kid, but the world works differently. Make money, buy new, throw away old. It's the cycle of waste in nature. But there must be people who want to repair things, Wesley insists. Maybe you just need to find the right customers? Vance shrugs. Maybe, but I'm too old for new ventures. How old are you? Wesley asks bluntly. 65? My grandfather started an online fishing tackle store when he was 72. I look at him in amazement. He's talking about Elliot, who was indeed an avid fisherman, but never opened a store as far as I know. 64, Vance replies, and I'm not very good with computers, unlike your grandfather. I could help, Wesley offers, with the computer part, if you decide to reopen the workshop or something. Vance grunts, but I can see that Wesley's offer has piqued his interest. Let's finish the porch first, kid, he says, standing up. We'll talk about the future later. They return to work, and I go to the apartment to prepare dinner. Through the window, I watch them work together, the experienced craftsman and the curious teenager. Something about this scene touches me deeply. Maybe it's the thought that Wesley is getting the male attention he's always lacked from his perpetually busy father and absent grandfather. By 7 o'clock, the porch is completely repaired. Vance even painted it. He found a can of paint in the basement. It looks brand new, I say, admiring their work. I don't know how to thank you. It's nothing. Vance waves me off. Neighbors should help each other. Stay for dinner, I offer. I made lasagna, enough for everyone. Vance hesitates, but Wesley backs me up. Yes, stay. Grandma's lasagna is the best in the world. Well, if you say so, Vance smiles, and for the first time I see his stern face soften. It's hard to turn down the best lasagna in the world. Over dinner, we talk about this and that. The weather, fishing. It turns out Vance is also into it. The robots Wesley is building at school. Vance asks him about his project and gives him some technical advice. Wesley listens attentively and asks questions. They speak in a language I don't quite understand, but I enjoy watching them interact. It's time to go, Wesley, I say, glancing at my watch. The last bus leaves in 20 minutes. I can give the kid a ride, Vance offers unexpectedly. I'm going that way anyway to pick up a spare part from a friend. Really? Wesley is clearly delighted. If your grandmother doesn't mind. Vance looks at me questioningly. Of course I don't mind. I nod. Just make sure he gets home safely. I'll get him there safe and sound, Vance promises. You have my word. When they leave, I start clearing the table, feeling strangely at peace. It has been a busy but surprisingly pleasant day. Wesley, who used to be quiet and withdrawn in my presence, has revealed a new side of himself today. Curious, hardworking, attentive. And Vance, whom I knew only as a silent neighbor, turned out to be an interesting conversationalist and a patient mentor. The phone rings as I load the dishwasher. It's Meredith. Has Wesley left yet? She asks without preamble. The last bus will be here soon. My neighbor gave him a ride, I reply. Vance. They were repairing the porch together. Repairing the porch? I hear surprise in her voice. Wesley? Yes, and he did a great job. I can't hide my pride. Vance said he'd make a great assistant in his workshop. Meredith sounds puzzled. I didn't know he was interested in that. He usually only talks about computers. Maybe you just never asked? I guess so, I say, gently. There is silence on the other end of the line, then a quiet, maybe. I really don't always pay attention. That admission is worth a lot. Meredith is not one to readily admit her mistakes. It's okay, I say. We all have things to learn about communicating with each other. Yes, she agrees. By the way, Gareth called. He said he'd be coming over tomorrow with the kids, without Jen. She has something to do at church. Great, I say, glad for the opportunity to see Gareth's grandchildren. Because of my tense relationship with Jen, I rarely get to see them. I was thinking of coming over too, Meredith continues cautiously. If you don't mind. Of course I don't, I reply. I'd love to see you all. Even Brianna? There is doubt in her voice. Even Brianna, I confirm. She's my granddaughter, no matter what. After our conversation, I step out onto the newly renovated porch. The evening is quiet and warm. The first stars appear in the sky. I sit down on the steps, breathing in the smell of fresh paint and spring air. Something is changing in my life. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, but surely. The new boundaries I have set have not pushed my family away, as I feared, but have instead created space for healthier relationships. Wesley has shown an interest in communicating with me. Meredith has begun to acknowledge her mistakes. Gareth has decided to bring the children over without pressure from his wife. And Vance, the thought of him brings a warm feeling to my chest. Not romantic. I've long since come to terms with loneliness in that sense, but something like friendship, real friendship, based on mutual respect and a willingness to help. The sound of a car pulling up interrupts my thoughts. Vance's pickup stops in front of the house. He gets out and waves at me. I got your grandson here safe and sound, he says, coming up to the porch. He's a good kid, smart. Thanks for giving him a ride, I smile, and for the porch, too. Vance sits down next to me on the steps. You know, your grandson gave me an interesting idea, Vance says, looking off into the distance. About the workshop. Really? I turn to him with interest. He thinks I could open a small repair shop right here in Millbridge. He said he'd help me set up a website so people could find me online. That sounds great, I say sincerely. You've got golden hands, Vance. I'm sure a lot of people would be happy to have their things repaired instead of throwing them away. He grunts, but I can see he appreciates my support. Maybe, he says. It's worth thinking about. We sit in comfortable silence, watching the twilight deepen. Music drifts over from somewhere. One of the neighbors is listening to old jazz tunes. Wesley asked about fishing, Vance says suddenly. He said he's never been. I thought maybe take him out to Lake Winthrop sometime. The fishing's good on weekends. I look at him in surprise. Vance has always seemed like a loner, not very sociable. And now he's offering to take my grandson fishing. I think he'd like that, I say cautiously. But I'll have to ask his parents. Sure, Vance nods. Just thought the kid could use learning something other than messing around with computers. Fishing teaches patience and silence. Few people appreciate silence these days. I smile, realizing he's right. In a world full of noise and bustle, the ability to be silent is a rare and valuable skill. I'll talk to Meredith, I promise. I don't think she'll mind. Vance nods, then gets up. I'm going to go. It's been a long day. Thanks again for the porch, I say, and for finding common ground with Wesley. He needs some male attention. He's a good kid, Vance repeats. Reminds me of my nephew when he was his age. He leaves, and I sit on the porch for a while, thinking about the day. The new boundaries I've set haven't destroyed my relationship with my family, as I feared. On the contrary, they've created space for something new, healthier, and more respectful. Wesley, who used to be a quiet shadow in a noisy family, has suddenly revealed unexpected sides to his personality. Vance, whom I knew only as a taciturn neighbor, has turned out to be a reliable friend and potential mentor for my grandson. And me. I no longer feel like a doormat that everyone wipes their shoes on. I don't feel like a free babysitter who is hired for a while and then cast aside when she is no longer needed. I'm beginning to feel like a human being, alive, real, with a right to respect and my own space. And that feeling is worth all the conflicts and uncomfortable conversations I've had to go through. 6 months isn't a long time to completely change your life, but it's enough to notice a difference. Autumn in Millbridge has been bright. The maple trees along the streets are ablaze with red and gold, and the air smells of fallen leaves and smoke from fireplaces. I love this time of year, a time of harvest, taking stock and preparing for winter. My apartment has also changed over the past 6 months. A few minor repairs, new wallpaper in the living room, fresh paint in the kitchen, have made it cozier. Vance helped me install bookshelves along the wall, and now my books are no longer crammed into cardboard boxes, but are neatly arranged by subject. Houseplants have appeared on the windowsills, a small garden that is pleasant to tend to. And, most surprisingly, I now have a cat, a ginger, one-eyed Rupert, whom I took from a shelter 2 months ago when the manager finally relaxed the rules on pets. But the main changes have not been in my surroundings, but in my soul. I no longer feel like a burden or a ghost on the sidelines of my own life. I have developed interests, hobbies, even a small circle of friends. Lynette, of course, Vance, a couple of women from the book club I started attending at the city library. Today is an important day, Thanksgiving. And for the first time in many years, the holiday will be celebrated in my apartment instead of at Meredith's house. The idea seems almost crazy, cramming 10 people into my small living room, cooking a turkey in my tiny oven. But when I suggested it, everyone agreed without hesitation. Even Jen, Gareth's wife, who usually finds 1,000 reasons not to come to my place. The morning starts early, at 5 o'clock as usual. Old habits die hard. But now, waking up early doesn't feel like a burden. It's my time to relax with a cup of tea, read, and meditate. Today, however, there's no time for meditation. I have to start getting ready for the guests. The turkey has been defrosting since yesterday. I start with the pumpkin pie. It has to cool down in time for dinner. Then I start on the stuffing for the turkey, my grandmother's classic recipe with celery, onions, and breadcrumbs. My hands work automatically, and my thoughts flow freely. I remember how our relationship with Meredith changed after that conversation 6 months ago. Not immediately, of course. There were moments of tension, misunderstanding, attempts to return to old patterns of behavior. But gradually, we learned to communicate in a new way, with respect for each other's boundaries, without manipulation or hidden resentment. And then, there was a crisis in her family. Chris lost his job when the construction company went bankrupt. 3 months without a steady income, tension, arguments. For the first time, Meredith found herself in a situation where she had to be the main breadwinner in the family, juggling work and caring for the children. I helped as much as I could, not with money as I still didn't have much, but with time and support. I picked Wesley up from school when Meredith was late at work. I cooked dinner, but not out of a sense of duty or fear of being useless, but out of a sincere desire to help my daughter during a difficult time. And something changed in her during that period. Maybe her own vulnerability taught her to see the vulnerability in others. Maybe she just grew up and realized that life was more complicated than it seemed. In any case, Meredith became softer, more attentive. She started asking how I was feeling, what I was doing, what I was reading. She began to see me not just as a mom or grandma, but as a person with her own life and interests. The doorbell interrupts my thoughts. It's too early for visitors. We agreed to meet at noon. I peek through the peephole. It's Vance. "Good morning," he says when I open the door. "I came to help with the table. I thought you could use a pair of strong hands." Vance has also changed over the past few months. He's become more talkative, at least with me. He really did open a small repair shop in his brother's garage on the outskirts of town. Wesley helped him with the website and even made business cards. Business isn't booming, but it's steady. There are a lot of people in town who would rather fix something old than buy something new. "Come on in," I smile. "I pulled the table out yesterday, but I could use some help arranging the chairs." Vance walks into the apartment and nods to Rupert, who is watching him from the windowsill. "It smells amazing," he remarks, sniffing the air. "Pumpkin pie?" "Yes, my grandmother's recipe. I reply, returning to the kitchen. Would you like some coffee? We drink coffee while discussing the best way to arrange the furniture for our guests' comfort. Then Vance helps me pull 2 small tables closer to the main one so that everyone will fit. He gathers the folding chairs his brother lent me. Are you nervous? He asks, noticing how I keep glancing at the clock. A little, I admit. It's the first time I've had the whole family over. I'm afraid there won't be enough room or enough food or... Everything will be fine. He interrupts my stream of worries. There's plenty of room, and judging by the smells, there's enough food to feed an army. And most importantly, you're not alone. I'll help if anything goes wrong. His calm confidence has a calming effect on me. Vance is a man of action, not words. If he says he'll help, he will. Our relationship developed slowly and cautiously. At first, it was just neighborly help. He fixed my faucets and shelves, and I sometimes cooked dinner for him. Then we started going for walks in the park together and occasionally going to the movies or a cafe. Nothing romantic. We were both too old for that, or so I thought. Just a pleasant friendship between 2 lonely people. But gradually, something began to change. Vance started calling me just to see how my day was going. He began bringing me books that he thought I might like. And I caught myself dressing up before he came over, waiting for our meetings with a slight excitement I hadn't felt in years. What are you thinking about? Vance asks, interrupting my thoughts. About how everything has changed in the last few months, I answer honestly. For the better. He nods, understanding without needing an explanation. Yes, you've become more confident, he says. Happier, maybe. Because I've finally started living for myself and not just for others, I smile. Better late than never, right? Vance looks at me for a long time, then unexpectedly takes my hand in his. You know, Evie, I think maybe we should talk about us. About what's going on between us. My heart starts beating faster. I wasn't ready for this turn of events, especially today, before the whole family arrives. Vance, The doorbell saves me from having to answer. We both flinch, like teenagers caught by their parents. Let's talk later, Vance says, letting go of my hand. Now's not the time. I nod, grateful for the delay, and go to answer the door. Standing on the doorstep is Gareth with his wife Jen and their children, 8-year-old Cassie and 5-year-old Liam. Hi, Mom. Gareth hugs me. Something smells delicious. Grandma, Cassie shouts, throwing her arms around my neck. You have a cat, a real one. Yes, this is Rupert, I smile. You can pet him, but be careful, he's a little shy. Jen stands to one side, clearly feeling awkward. We've never been close. She always thought I was too conservative, too old-fashioned. But after the truth about Elliot came out, something changed in her too. Maybe she just saw me in a new light, not as a symbol of outdated values, but as a woman who found the strength to start a new life after being betrayed. Thank you for inviting us, Evelyn, she says, handing me a bottle of wine. We brought a Pinot Noir. I hope it goes well with the turkey. It will be perfect, I smile. Come in, make yourselves comfortable. Vance, could you show the children where Rupert likes to be petted? Vance nods and leads the excited children to the windowsill, where Rupert watches from a safe distance. Meredith, Chris, Wesley, and Brianna arrive next. Meredith looks tired, but smiles sincerely. Chris is carrying a large dish of green beans, their contribution to the holiday dinner. Wesley immediately heads for Vance. They've become close over the past few months. Vance really did take him fishing, and it has become a regular activity for them. Sometimes I join them, not to fish, but just to be outdoors, read by the lake, and listen to the silence, occasionally interrupted by the voices of the men. Brianna remains the most difficult. After that conversation with Meredith, something changed in her too, but not as noticeably as in the others. She still keeps her distance, still prefers to spend time with her friends or buried in her phone. But there are no more direct insults, and sometimes, very rarely, I catch her looking at me with something that resembles interest or even respect. Hi, Grandma, she says now, handing me a clumsily wrapped gift. This is for you. It's nothing special, just, I thought you might like it. I unwrap the paper and find a book, Stories of Women Who Changed the World After 60. Inside is a bookmark with the words, You Can Too, and a clumsy drawing of a cat that looks a lot like Rupert. Brianna, this is... I'm speechless with surprise. I told you it's nothing special. She shrugs, but I can see that she cares whether I like the gift or not. I just saw it in the bookstore and thought of you. How you've changed lately. Thank you, I say, holding back tears. That's very touching. Don't exaggerate, she snorts, but her cheeks are slightly red. I'll go say hi to Cassie. Meredith comes over to me when Brianna walks away. I didn't expect that from her. She doesn't usually give gifts to anyone. People change, I smile. We all do. The guests settle into the living room, chatting and laughing. The children play with Rupert, who, to my surprise, accepts all the attention with regal dignity. Vance helps Chris open the wine. Jen and Meredith are discussing something, sitting side by side on the sofa. It seems their relationship has improved lately as well. I go back to the kitchen to check on the turkey. It's almost done, and the aroma fills the apartment. I put the sweet potatoes in the oven, the final touch to the holiday meal. Need any help? Gareth peeks into the kitchen. I can slice the bread or something. Yes, thank you. I nod toward the fresh rolls. Can you slice them and put them in the baskets? We work side by side, and it reminds me of when Gareth was a teenager and often helped me in the kitchen. Unlike Meredith, he always loved to cook. How's work? I ask. Still a lot of traveling? Yes, but I've cut back on the night trips, he replies. After our conversation about Dad, I realized I don't want to be the kind of father who misses important moments in his children's lives. His words touch me deeply. You're a good father, Gareth, I say sincerely. Much better than your father was. He smiles, a little sadly. I try. It doesn't always work, but I really try. That's what matters. I squeeze his hand. The fact that you try makes you better. The doorbell rings. The last guest has arrived. It's Lynette, my neighbor and friend, who recently had knee surgery and walks with a cane. I hope I'm not late, she says as she enters. This elevator is slower than my mother-in-law thinks it is. We all laugh, and I introduce Lynette to those who don't know her yet. She quickly finds common ground with Jen, who is also interested in alternative medicine. Cassie immediately takes Lynette's cane to examine the carved handle, and Lynette happily tells us how she bought it at an antique store. Finally, everything is ready, and we sit down at the table. There isn't much room, but no one complains. On the contrary, the cramped quarters create a cozy, intimate atmosphere. Chris pours wine for the adults and juice for the children. I bring out the turkey, big, golden, and fragrant. Who wants to say a toast? Meredith asks when all the glasses are filled. To my surprise, Wesley raises his hand. Can I? We all nod, and he stands up, a little embarrassed by the attention. I want to thank Grandma, he says, looking at me, for bringing us all together. For teaching me, well, many things. Patience, how to listen, and also for introducing me to Vance, who taught me how to fish and fix things instead of throwing them away. He pauses, gathering his thoughts. And I also want to say that I'm proud of you, Grandma, for not being afraid to change your life, even when it was scary. It's inspiring. I can't hold back the tears. Wesley, my quiet, withdrawn grandson, has just said the most beautiful words I've ever heard. Thank you, dear, I say, wiping my eyes. That means a lot to me. To Grandma! Wesley raises his glass of juice. To Evelyn! The others join in, and I see genuine smiles on their faces. Even Brianna, though she rolls her eyes as teenagers do, raises her glass and toasts me across the table. We start eating, and the conversation flows easily. There is no awkwardness, no tension. Of course, we are not a perfect family from a commercial. We still have problems, misunderstandings, old grudges. But today, at this moment, we are just people who are happy to be together. After dinner, we move to the living room with cups of coffee and tea. The kids are playing a board game on the floor. Brianna, to my surprise, isn't buried in her phone, but is helping Cassie understand the rules. Meredith and Chris are sitting on the couch, his arm around her shoulder. They look happy again after a difficult period. Gareth, Jen, and Lynette are discussing some new movie. Vance comes over to me with 2 cups of tea. Shall we go out on the porch? I think we need to finish our conversation. I nod, and we go out onto the porch, the one he helped repair 6 months ago. The air is fresh with a slight chill. The sky is clear and dotted with stars. It's a beautiful evening, Vance says, looking up at the stars. You did well. Thanks, I smile. I was nervous, but it really went well. Better than fine. He turns to me. Eve, what I wanted to talk to you about earlier. Yes? My heart starts beating faster again. I'm not good with words, you know. He begins, clearly nervous. But over the past few months, you've become important to me. Very important. I'm silent, not knowing what to say. I'm not suggesting anything grand, he continues. We're not young anymore. We have whole lives behind us. Children, grandchildren. But I'm happy with you, Evie. And I thought, maybe we should spend more time together. Officially, I mean. Are you asking me out? I can't help smiling. At our age? Why not? He smiles too. Age is just a number. It's how you feel that counts. And how do you feel? I ask quietly. Younger than I have in the last 20 years, he replies honestly. Thanks to you. I look at this man, simple, reliable, with kind eyes and wrinkles at the corners of his mouth from rare but sincere smiles. A man who helped me fix not only my porch, but also my self-confidence. I agree, I say, and the words feel right. Let's spend more time together. Vance takes my hand, gently, as if afraid to scare me away. Are you sure? Your family? My family will be happy for me, I reply, with a confidence I didn't feel 6 months ago. They already see me not as just a grandmother, but as a person with a life of my own, and that's right. He nods, then leans down and kisses me, lightly, tenderly, as if asking for permission. I respond to the kiss, feeling myself warm up despite the cool air. The door behind us opens, and we pull away from each other. Meredith is standing in the doorway, looking surprised. Oh, she says, I didn't mean to interrupt. It's okay, I say, feeling myself blush like a schoolgirl. We were just on our way back. Meredith looks at us, then smiles unexpectedly. You know, Mom, happiness suits you. I haven't seen you this alive in a long time. Her words touch me deeply. Thank you, dear, I say. I am truly happy, for the first time in a long time. We return to the house where it is warm and cozy, where laughter and conversation fill the air, where my family, not perfect with all their flaws and problems, has come together not out of a sense of duty, but out of a desire to be together. Looking at them all, I realize that I have finally found my way. I am no longer a shadow, a ghost, a silent victim. I have become myself, a woman with her own voice, her own desires, her own life. And this life, even though it has begun anew at the age of 67, promises to be beautiful.